Hello my gorgeous loves out there and welcome. In today's video, I'm going to get into 10 palettes that I think are underrated, that did not get enough hype, enough love and attention, and I want to highlight them and show them in this video today. But before we get into this video, if you're new here, hello, welcome. My name is Bri. I am a crazy lover of all things beauty. I like to post a lot of fun, colorful makeup content. I like to do a lot in makeup, so if that is what you're into, then please hit that subscribe button and join this little family. But with that being said, let's get into this video. So my loves, I was going through my collection and I was like looking at this palette. I was like, man, this palette was so underrated. I love it so much. And then it got my brain going and I was like, you know what? I should highlight palettes that I think are underrated, that need more love, that people need to play with if it's in their collection and just need to be hyped up. And some of these are from like last year or older. They may not be things you can get anymore, but if you have them in your collection, maybe it will remind you to pull them back out because they're so good and they need more love. Because I just feel like there's certain brands and certain releases that just get so much hype and other ones that should get hype but don't get any, and it always just like confuses me. Like, I guess the algorithm is only set for certain things. But before we get into all these palettes, if you are wondering about this eye look, I think it's absolutely stunning. It's so pretty. I have the new Danessa Myricks Beauty Lightwork Volume 6 Freedom palette on my eyes, and I'm so happy with how the look came out. I did a whole comparison, swatches, put this eye look together. So if you want to see that video and see how this was put together on my eyes, then please check it out in the description below. I'll have it linked. I'll put it up in the corner for your viewing pleasure. But now we can get into these 10 palettes. So the first one that I want to mention is from a brand that mainly concentrates on singles, and that's why I think this brand doesn't get enough hype, because you have to be a certain kind of makeup lover to go and buy singles, and singles tend to be pretty expensive from indie brands, and I think most people prefer eyeshadow palettes, so I think this is why this brand doesn't get enough love. But it's a touch of Glam. They came out with, there's been a Holo Misunderstanding palette, which I think was their holiday palette from last year, and I was blown away by this. Like, I raved about it in my whole review. The freaking shadows in here are amazing. Even the matte, buttery creamy goodness that just blend so easily on the eyes. And a lot of people did not talk about this palette. It did not get shown a lot. I don't think it got hyped up enough, and I think people are sleeping on this brand. And I do hope that Touch of Glam will come out with more eyeshadow palettes. I feel like that will allow people to try their brand out, understand how amazing their shadows are, and maybe be more willing to shop their brand or shop their singles. Because of this palette, it's made me want to go pick up some of their single shadows and bundles, like the ones that they just re-released for Halloween, and they're like birthday stylers, because they're so good. There's like holochromes, there's like shifty shades, there's beautiful creamy metallics, there's amazing 2 mattes in here, and I want them to come out with more mattes. Like, they need to give their matte formula more attention and more love, and not only concentrate on the sparkly shadows, because these mattes are so good. Some of the best mattes that I've tried. So I hope that they will do that in the future. And I think maybe they also didn't get enough love because they used to mainly be on Etsy, but they have a website now. So that means they need to start pumping out some palettes, okay? That's what I want to see from brands that concentrate on singles. Then getting into this one right here, this is the Into the Night palette from Glaminatrix. Now this palette is so fun. It's so different. It's like muted colors with pops of neon. When this came out, I didn't see anything like this on the market, and I just recently showed this in a haul video where I compared it to the new El Camino palette from Gourmand Girls. And that's like the closest thing I've seen to a color story like this. But overall, I also think Glaminatrix does not get enough love. And I think because for a while they mainly concentrated on singles, but they've been coming out with palettes more and more. But they do kind of cycle through their palettes really quickly. I feel like it comes up on their website for like only so long, and then it disappears again, and then come out with something else. I wish that they would keep their stuff longer so more people could, you know, discover it and try it. I just feel like they just take their stuff down so quickly. I don't even think this was on their website for very long, and I don't feel like a lot of people hype this palette up and hype Glaminatrix overall. They have an amazing eyeshadow formula. Amazing mattes, amazing metallics, pigmented, buttery, creamy goodness, and they come out with interesting color stories. I feel like they try unique color combinations. I find their palettes very inspiring and different and never really matching like other palettes or the trend that's coming out. I feel like they always do their own thing. So why don't people talk about them more? Like, this was really good. It just didn't last long on their website. Then going on to this one from It's About Cosmetics, the Cool Summer Palette. I honestly think this is an underrated palette. I know some people didn't love the mattes in here. I didn't have any issues with them. They did do, I think, a updated version where they updated the mattes in here and then people were more happy. But I don't think this sold as well as some of their other palettes, and I don't get it. Like, it's so pretty. It's so fun. It's so beachy. I liked all the shades. I love the blues. I love the metallics in here. They're shifty, intense, and sparkly, and really good. I guess, I don't know, maybe like some of the bigger influencers kind of didn't like the matte, so then it like didn't get enough hype, and then once they revamped it, nobody was looking at it anymore. But I had no issues. I enjoyed all the looks I've ever been able to create with this, and it's probably their most underrated palette that they've ever come out with. And It's About a great brand. You guys know I love them. I just did my collab, which is back here, the Tropical Nights collection, which I think is so stunning. And the formula, Chef's Kiss, their mattes have gotten so good. Like, beautiful. You need to try that. It's still available, I believe. I'll link it below in the description if you want to check out, and my launch video. Just another shameless plug. And another one from It's About is their Pixie Grove palette too. Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. And a lot of palettes are coming out like this right now because we're going into the fall season. And I think this didn't release during fall because they usually go against the trends. Like, they go and they do their own thing. They release color stories whenever they want. They don't just like, oh, it's summer, I'm gonna release a summer palette. It's fall, I'm gonna release a fall palette. They just come out with whatever they feel, whenever they want to. And I love that about the brand. They break the rules, they do their own thing, and they always come out with beautiful color stories. And this is a grungy dream. And the one that just came out from Cosmic Brushes is like a bigger version of this. And it's like, if you already have this, you may not necessarily need that new Undergrowth palette that just came out. Now, I did end up picking it up because this is the kind of color stories I love, and I can never get enough of these kind of color stories in my life. But they came out with it before they did, and this is so good. The mix with the minty shades, the olives, and then you have the warm tones, the metallics, Chef's Kiss in here. The mattes are pigmented. They're that improved matte formula. And they're good. Then going on to two palettes from East Beaute that didn't get enough hype, not as much hype as some of their other palettes, and it's the Envy and the Aura palette. I don't know if it's just when it was released, it just didn't get enough attention, but these are so good. So the Aura palette has like these beautiful purples with these yellowy mustard tones, and I don't know if like this color combination was like different for people to see these colors mixed together, because I don't know, you don't see mustard yellows that often with just purples, but to me it was unique, and I love the looks that I was able to create with this. And the mustardy like tones like this went so well with these purples. And then you even have like a reddish kind of berry moment here too, so you could not only go like super purple, you could go in the reddish tones. Even these mustards look good with the reddish tones. You could do like a sunset look. You could do an all purple look. You can do a more neutral look. I mean, I was really impressed at how versatile this actually was and how good it was. And I feel like this was one of the releases that didn't get talked about as much as like their Tropical Vibes palette got so much love and got hyped up so much, but not this one. I don't know if it was just too unique, too different at the time. And then their Envy palette that also released the same time. Maybe this was like a fall release or a holiday release. I mean, look at this. it has greens and blues, and most people go crazy for green and blue palettes. It had great tones, it had really good mattes, it was saturated. I don't know, maybe this leans too dark for most people, but it does have an inner corner highlight. But these beautiful mattes are like so good, pigmented, blendable. You can create these smoky green looks, then you have a little bit of grunge, you can go blue. This is just a really good blue-green grunge palette that, I don't know what it was about these two palettes, but when they came out, I feel like a lot of people weren't really talking about them. Not like their other ones, like their Paletopoly one, I think got so much more hype than those two palettes. Then I also have this one from Nomad Cosmetics, which I feel like Nomad Cosmetics is talked about more, especially by a lot of influencers. But this Royal Europe palette, I feel it was very underrated compared to like their Halloween palettes or their fall palette. Like, why did no one really talk about this one? It's beautiful. It's jewel tone. It has these saturated, beautiful mattes. I think some of their best mattes are in this palette. And then it was full of these creamy, very intense multi-chromes. And I think this is their first time introducing a multi-chrome formula into their palettes. And no one really hyped this up like that. I mean, I'm sure when it initially launched, it got some love, but it didn't get the love that I think it deserved, because these multi-chromes are creamy, intense, shifty, and these mattes are really good. And I think with this is because it's jewel tone and there's not really light shades in here. And I feel like palettes that are overall on the smoky, darker side don't get as much love as palettes that have like a lot of light shades included, a lot of iridescence included. I think most people just get intimidated by these dark saturated jewel tones, but I run towards them. I like smoky looks, I like intensity, and I know that that's not everyone's cup of tea. I feel like overall lighter palettes, more nudie palettes get more hype than jewel tone palettes like this, and I think that's maybe one of the reasons why it didn't get enough love. But I'm a person who will use multiple palettes to create one look. I don't need just one palette to do a completed look. I will pull other palettes. I love doing that actually, because it gives me a chance to use more within my collection. But some people don't like to have to pull from other palettes for some reason, when it's so easy to just pop in a highlighter in your inner corner. It doesn't have to be another eyeshadow palette, but somehow the darker palettes don't get enough love. And that brings me to another darker, more smoky palette, and it's the Lethal Cosmetics Midnight Serenade palette. Another brand that I feel doesn't get enough hype. Now, I think their Avatar, the Last Airbender one did, but overall, I feel like this is not a brand that's like going crazy on people's feed. Not like Blend Bunny or Udin's Eye or Unearthly or Cosmic Brushes, but they're so high quality. They're very innovative brand. They come out with all different kind of color stories. They try to do different things, and they're kind of like a rebel, you know, like they're doing their own thing, and they could care less about trying to follow the trends. Like, they're trying to set the trends, you know, and people are just, they're sleeping on Lethal. Lethal has a really good formula. These are some of their best mattes. Then they also have some shifty shades in here that are like dual chromes and sparkly. And I think they just improve over and over. Like, every time a new palette comes out from them, it's even better than the last one. They're constantly trying to be better and better, and I love that about a brand who's constantly improving, constantly taking feedback, trying different things, trying different shadow formulas. And I love that they came out with this muted, smoky, sultry palette, and it does have shades you can use as an inner corner highlight, but I think because it's overall more smoky and more muted and darker, it didn't get enough love. I don't know what it is. Why do people stay away from these beautiful colors? I think they just scare people, but I'm like all about just diving right into the more saturated colors, and I just know I'm not the norm. I think most people like nudie and light shades, but this is so sexy. It's beautiful for like date night, and like it would probably be really good for the season we're going into fall and Halloween, for like those vampy fall looks, those vampy Halloween looks. Give this some love if you have it. It's gorgeous. Then the next palette, which I think got really good reviews. A lot of people love this, but I don't think it got enough love. And it's the Resurrection palette from Wicked Widow Beauty, which is another brand I think is very underrated that does not get enough hype, but they have really good eyeshadows, amazing mattes, some of the best mattes, some of the best metallics that are just foiled, intense, and shifty. And this was a different take on a rainbow palette. It had some grunge, it had some different undertones, a little bit of pastels, a like little off-white inner corner highlight. It's actually quite pigmented, and then some of these smoky shades, like this one right here is a gray and it goes to like a maroon. It's such a pretty metallic, and it's the best rainbow palette in my collection. But I feel like rainbow palettes get skipped over because so many rainbow palettes always come out, brands do it all the time, that a lot of rainbow palettes get overlooked, and then like they get outshadowed by like maybe the more hyped up brands that come out with rainbow palettes. But Wicked Widow needs more love. They really, really do. They have amazing, amazing formula, and I love their interesting color stories that they come out with. I think they're innovative, they're different, they're a little gothic, a little grunge, and that's my vibe, and I love them. So I think they did keep restocking this. I don't know if they still sell it, but if they do, I'm telling you, you would not be disappointed. This will be the best rainbow palette you ever have. And if you have it, pull it back out. It has everything you need to create fall looks, winter looks, spring looks. It's a rainbow palette. It's got all you could possibly need to create some fun, colorful looks. And then a brand that is super, super like mainstream now for an indie brand. It gets talked about a lot, and they have just a lot of this coming into their brand, is Glamlite. But this palette right here, the Scooby Doo one, I don't feel like got received very well or got hyped up very much. And I don't know if it's like the big bulky packaging or like a lot of the empty space in between the shadows that threw people off. And I don't know if it's like the background makes the shadows not stand out enough and they kind of get lost and they don't really stand out. I think maybe if they had changed the package design, this might have got more love. Maybe put the shadows together, chose a different background, because this is really good. This is also kind of rainbow-esque, but on the muted, little bit grungy side. Like it's not like the typical primary colors you see in a rainbow palette. I felt like it was fun. It was very versatile. I had a lot of options. Now, overall, Glamlite always doesn't include like an inner corner highlight, which is another thing I think a lot of people don't love about their brand. I think they lean overall more darker. I mean, some of their palettes do have inner corner highlight shades, but I don't think, maybe this one was an inner corner for me. But if you're like really fair, you would have to pull another palette, which I have no problem doing. But I just had really fun colors, and I love this. I think it's really the packaging that's throwing people off with this palette. And maybe it's too like, you know, nostalgic, too kitty with the Scooby Doo theme. But they're a very quirky brand that does very quirky like collections, and they like to collab a lot with like a lot of shows and spooky stuff, and like Chucky and Strawberry Shortcake and whatever, and you know, Scooby Doo. But I think their formula is excellent and so fun. I just think like their themes like overshadow their actual quality, and like people get distracted by the packaging and can't focus on the beauty of the shadows that are inside. So this one, I feel like a lot of people didn't like really hype it up enough. And I think it's this. I think this is throwing people off, but the shadows are so good in here, and there's so many pretty tones, and this would be perfect for the fall season that we're going into. That's the last palette out of these underrated palettes that I wanted to mention, that I wanted to highlight, give them more love, hype them up more, because they're really good, and I think that they deserve a lot more love than they've received. So these are the 10 underrated palettes in my opinion, based on what I like when it comes to eyeshadows, based on what I saw on my feed. Maybe my algorithm didn't show these enough for me, but I love them and I think they're great. And if you have them, use them. If they're still available, highly recommend checking them out. But that was everything for this video. If you are interested in any of these palettes, I will link them below, the ones that are still available, and I will include my videos that I've done on any of these palettes if you want to get look inspirations, see like more of an in-depth review on all of them. And I will have my makeup link. Like I said, I did film this and did this look on camera with the Danessa Myricks Freedom Lightwork Volume 6 palette. So if you want to check that out, it will be linked. I will also have my contact and my social media platforms linked. I'm also on Instagram as Breezy Lifestyle and Breezy_Beauty. So if you want to join my Instagram fam, I would really, really love that. But guys, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video, for hanging out with me for a little bit. I really appreciate it. And I just hope all of you are doing well wherever you are in the world, and just send you guys so much light and love. But until next time, bye guys.